Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I do want to bring you my first initial thoughts about Shadowland. This is the new game mode. If you're not familiar with the patch 2.5, we've gotten this new game mode called Shadowland right here. Challenge yourself in the Shadowland. Holy shit, I cannot find the clickable for it. There we go. When you load up the game after the patch, you'll get a more detailed splash page that I've already clicked through. And then if you go into the arena, you'll find Shadowland here at the bottom with the Daredevil uni. You can read up about Shadowland if you're not really familiar with it. But basically, what Shadowland is for the uninitiated, it's 25 stages that you clear, one at a time. And you build up, hopefully, to 25 if you're a badass motherfucker. And you get better and better rewards the higher you get. At the end, you'll fight Daredevil, and if you beat him, you'll get his prize. Some of the best prizes, some of the most awesome prizes you'll get from this is like, more than 300 black antimatter, like a shit ton of diversity stones, considering how much we get from world boss clears and the double rift clears, like well over 100 of those diversity stones. And then you'll get differing amounts of gold, dimension debris, gear up kits, and you'll get like over 200 bios, like bio selectors that you can use on characters. So it's awesome. The rewards are amazing, and this is a totally optional piece of content. You don't actually have to clear it or play with it if you don't want to, but it's highly recommended because it's A, super fucking fun, and B, it's cool, it's hard, it's difficult, it's challenging, and C, it gives you sweet rewards. Now, as you guys can see here, I'm on floor 7 right now, so I have different rewards. The gold is the same, but the difference between the debris and the gear ups are there. So, obviously Black Widow is representing the debris boys because she likes the stick. And then Wasp and Superman, Wasp and Spider-Man, holy shit. Accidental obligatory DC reference. Wasp and Spider-Man are representing the girls because they like the taco. So these modes we'll talk about in a second, but there are basically 4 modes that you can play, that you can choose from randomly, so you don't always get all 4 to choose from. After floor 19, so from floor 20 onwards, they are set bosses, they are set levels, you don't have a choice. So that kind of represents the final tier of, crucibles that you need to take your characters through. Before 20, from 1 to 19, there's a bit of variety, and I'll show you guys what I mean. So in my stage, I cleared Rumble mode with Wasp, but it's not necessarily what will show up for someone else who has level 4 shown for them. From what I've gathered so far, I believe that there is some variety in the levels that you get at any given stage before 20. So for example, my 7 is showing a speed rumble, which Spider-Man indicates speed. Or sorry, a speed relay. I get a speed rumble with Black Widow, and then I get a blast rumble with Wasp. So if I go in here, I'll see the bosses. They're all blast characters, and it's rumble, and then this is speed rumble, and then this is speed relay. And then on the side here, I have the characters left to fight. But that's not necessarily what everyone will see for Shadowland Floor 7. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about right off the bat. There is not going to be, for a long time, a definitive guide to Shadowland. There will be guides, there will be people who claim to give you definitive guides, there will be lots of people who give you tips and tricks and advice and hints and things to look out for and stuff to think about and even viable teams per se. But there are too many variables in Shadowland for there to be like a definitive guide out, even in the next month, I'm going to guess, because there's so much variety in the levels you can get, and it's also dependent on what your team composition is. So the one thing that I really love, the biggest thing that I really love about Shadowland is it makes characters relevant again. I asked to make Timeline great again, but Netmarble has made fucking Ghost Rider great again. Uniform aside, Ghost Rider is a huge help on certain levels, and I'll get to that a little bit later, but Ghost Rider suddenly becomes super relevant, because if you have a super geared out or even tier 2 Ghost Rider. I don't, but if you do, he might be the one that clears stage 20 for you, and that could be the difference between you getting to stage 24, 25 and not. And those differences, although it's weekly, those differences do add up, and it does give you a new place where you can flex your Ghost Rider guns and flex that Nick Cage vibe, which is fucking awesome. I love it. Like, I cannot stress that enough without using more pejorative words. More rude shit, basically. So yeah, that's the biggest. For me, that's the biggest and the number one takeaway from Shadowland. It makes shitty characters, it makes bad, disused characters relevant again. You know, Wiccan is more relevant. He's not just PvP. Dr. Octopus with the uniform is a lot more relevant. Nebula's more relevant. Red Hulk is super relevant. Like, Bullseye is fucking relevant, guys. The donkey strength man himself is relevant. All right, maybe he needs a uniform as well, but basically any character that you have geared up is relevant. There is no character left unreached, even the most decrepit of them all. So that's the first thing that I really, really love about Shadowlands. It gives every character a chance to be great and to shine, and that's super important. The next thing, obviously, is the rewards. Shadowland rewards are awesome. They're super helpful for new players and veterans alike. And it introduces lots of new game modes that we're not super familiar with. Some of them feel like rehashed game modes that we've already seen or some of us have participated in, but they're still mostly brand new, and they're ever changing. So aside from those last 5 levels that we talked about, 20 to 25, the rest of these seemingly can be random or semi-random. So next week, I might not have a speed relay as my first level. So it requires a constant tweaking and retweaking of available teams, because you need to not only prioritize your best heroes for the last stages, because you don't want to bust your load at the beginning, right, guys? You want it to be a slow burn, but also because you need to match up to what's given to you. And so this is what I'm going to get into now. This is kind of some of the strategy of Shadowland, and something that you need to take into consideration as a main priority if you want to clear Shadowland. So what do I mean by the team setups? So if I go into relay mode here, these guys are all speed, as you can see. It doesn't really matter that Spider-Man's the boss. There's just 4 speed characters. It's a relay stage, so that's going to mean something that I'll get into in a second. But what I want to talk about first of all is that this battle tip at the bottom. Combat types have an advantage in this stage. So obviously, as you guys know, for a long, ever since the game was introduced, we've had this rock, scissor, paper, gun setup here. Where do I find it? I don't know where to find it. Shit. It's in the team bonus? No. It used to be here, but I don't know where the hell it went. Anyways, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's that thing that shows you all of the characters, and it shows you which ones are okay, here we go. It's this shit. It's this type affinity shit. Finally found it. So this thing has always been touted in the game as a really important part of it. And it's been important to varying degrees, but basically not really. You can definitely find other game modes where a speed character thrashes a combat character, or a blast character thrashes a speed character. It doesn't really matter so much in timeline where it was the most relevant before, and it usually doesn't matter at all in Battle World, because there's only one type usually allowed in Battle World at any given time, so there's no type advantage or disadvantage. But now with Shadowlands, we finally have a very acute, very serious form of type advantage and disadvantage. This Shadowland is definitely rock, scissor, papers, knife, or whatever the hell the fourth one is. If you go into this speed stage with a speed character or a blast character, you will do shit damage. Universal characters will do, I think, decent damage or normal damage, and then combat characters will do their increased damage. But as far as speed and blast characters go against other speed characters, you'll do 1 to 2 damage, and that's intentional. And what that does is it funnels your list of available heroes down to a much smaller number, and it means that you have to have more characters built up, and you can't just rely on 1 or 2 good characters of each type to get you through the game mode. So before, or not before, but for Alliance Battle, you just need 1 good speed character, Tier 2 Agent 13 or Tier 2 Silk. You need 1 good blast character, Sharon Rogers. You need 1 good combat character, Tier 2 Carnage. You need 1 good universal female, no restriction supervillain, Loki. And Loki with the Sif uniform. But this is the exact opposite of alliance battle. This requires you to have lots of characters developed evenly so that they can tag team these different game modes or these different stages which represent game modes, so that you can try to get up as high as you can. So that's the first thing, and that's the thing that also will affect how difficult it is to give a definitive guide, because to give you a definitive guide, someone would have to look at your team and say, okay, you need combat characters for this stage, buddy. So let's go through your list and see which combat characters you have. Okay, well, you have these ones. You've already used these characters to clear the levels, so you have to kind of judge. And of course, it only gets harder. The characters only have more health and deal more damage the further you go. So if I use my Moon Knight now, if I come across another speed relay stage, I'm going to be like fucked, because I don't have, maybe I'm going to have to use my Carnage then, but then my Carnage can't help me on a later stage. So there's a lot of planning and forethought and like scripting that you need to do on your end as the player before you even like start to ascend the Shadowland levels and stages, in order to maximize your score week by week. So honestly, guys, what I'm going to recommend for you overall is, don't try to look for a guide for Shadowland. Don't be a little baby. Don't be an idiot, and don't just sit on your ass and wait for something to come to you and be delivered to you in the form of like an Excel spreadsheet or a Reddit post, or a video where I quote somebody else's work. Please don't do that. Play this for yourself and learn, because that's going to be the way that you're going to clear this the most effectively, and it's the way you're going to improve week by week. And what I mean by learning is, well, you've got a lot of time to play this. As you guys can see, I still have a day and 11 hours, and I'm only on stage 7. I'm in no rush. I could obviously clear these stages very easily if I blow my top tier characters now, but I don't want to do that because I'm trying to get to the top. So if you play and you take it slow week by week, you will build up yourself, and you will see what teams work against which enemy teams. And then when they appear in different patterns, let's say Speed Relay appears as my 5th stage instead of, what was it? Instead of Universal Relay, I will know which team I need to use. I'll say, okay, last week I cleared this Universal Relay with this team, and now it's, instead of stage 4, it's stage 5, so it's a little bit harder. Maybe I need to make this tweak here or that tweak there, and just swap out one character for another in order to clear the level. And that's really what it's going to take. And because that kind of information is unique to each player and unique to their, not only their own skills as a player, but also their pool of talent, the characters and the heroes and villains they've unlocked, it's almost impossible to just universally apply, no pun intended, it's almost impossible to universally apply a guide to Shadowland for just any Tom, Dick, or Jane to just roll up on and be like, "Durr, now I can clear level 25." It's just not going to be that simple, guys. So sorry to break your hearts, but that's honestly my best advice for you, and I hope that you follow it, because it'll make you better and more confident at the game in the long run. That being said, I do want to discuss my strategy for this, because I think I'm kind of approaching it in the right way, at least from the onset. I am going quite slowly, but that's for other reasons. So what I would suggest you do is, obviously, of course, for the first stage, it's the lowest stage, you want to go with your lowest tier characters. You want to go to the bottom, to the characters that you have like basically shown no love to or very little love to. You will, I'm guessing, need 6-star characters level 60, so I don't think like level 4, like 4-star or 5-star characters are even in this discussion. But like once you have them at 6 stars, level 60, hopefully mastered, at least like, for example, my Captain America, then they're ready for like level 1. After level 5, I would say you're probably going to need ISO sets, like 8 slot ISO sets rolled for all your characters, and probably around level 9 or 10, you're also going to need obelisks. So you guys can see that as it gets higher and higher, and as it gets harder and harder, your characters are going to have to be more complete in terms of how geared they are in order to be competitive. So even though like this is a speed level and my combat types have an advantage, if I queue in, like, for example, Captain America, Sif, and Nebula, I'm going to get absolutely thrashed, because none of these characters have ISO sets, none of these characters have obelisks. I mean, 2 of them aren't even fucking mastered yet, okay? But I just want to do this one run for you guys, just to give you an example of what I'm talking about, okay? I'm just going to check to make sure my volume's been on this whole time. Okay, it has been. That's great. So in relay mode, we're going to talk about these in a second, but relay mode, as you guys can see, it's basically 2 in an arena, and you have one of your characters, and then you just try to fight them and kill them before they kill you. Obviously, they have a shitload of HP. In the beginning, I think on stage 1, they have about 250,000, but as you can see by stage 7, they have over 500,000. Yeah, over 500,000. So that's a lot more. So that's why you don't want to use your best characters for each category or in each type to clear the beginning levels, because then you're gonna be screwed at the end and you're gonna get stuck on a level, and then you'll have to, like, you know, branch out and use your like Black Order characters or your better tier 2 characters to clear a stage that your other combat blast or speed characters could have cleared. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Also keep in mind, universal characters obviously have a huge advantage in general in Shadowland, because they don't have any type disadvantage. The only level where they would have a type disadvantage is if the level calls for heroes or villains. Then universal characters might have a huge disadvantage, because most universal characters are also villains. But aside from that, they won't have a disadvantage in any of the speed, combat, or blast zones. So it's good to build up all of your universal characters to the highest level. Now, let's talk about the 4 game modes that we have. We have relay mode, the one I just showed you. You'll have two against 1, and then once you kill one, the 3rd one will come out. Once you kill another one, the 4th one will come out. And you have 3. You can put a maximum of 3 characters in. Okay. What I mean by that is, if I just want to queue in with Moon Knight, I can do that. I don't actually have to queue in with 3. It just tells me that I can continue, or I can back up and add 2 more. This stage is probably the easiest stage of all 4, because it's 2 against 1, so it's more manageable, and it's easier because you get to control your hero and you get to switch. Now, switching. If you're above, I believe it's VIP 3. Let's just double check this really quickly. VIP 3. So here's where VIP kind of makes Shadowland a bit of a pay to win. You need to be, I would say, at least VIP 3 to get quite far in Shadowlands. Why? Because of the 15% recovery when you tag. So as you guys can see there, Shadowland is included. The great thing about Shadowland is that the HP that your characters recover happens instantly. So if I went back into this stage and I queued up again with, you know, the same team, when my Captain America starts to get low on health, I could switch to Sif, and Captain America would heal up like whatever 5,000 HP or whatever, and that actually makes a huge difference in the long run. So unfortunately, if you're not at least VIP 3, you won't be able to take advantage of that. That's gonna make climbing the Shadowland ladder a lot harder, I would say. But relay is very easy, because it allows you to switch whenever you want. It allows you to take advantage of and abuse those heals as often as you want, as long as you're not running out of time, of course, and you're doing enough damage. And it's easier for you to control as a human player, because it's 2 against 1, and there's nothing else going on the screen. So you can kind of prioritize your moves and your, you know, when you use certain skills. That's all I have to say about relay mode for now. Then we have Rumble mode. Rumble mode is pretty fucking brutal. Rumble mode has 3 against 3 at the same time. So the problem with Rumble mode is, and I'll show you guys what Rumble mode looks like. The problem with Rumble mode is that there are still 4 enemies, so you still have to kill 4, but you actually don't control 2 of your heroes. So if I queue in with this team, I'm actually going to control Captain America at the beginning, and then Nebula and Sif will just be AI controlled. If I want to switch, I can press the portrait to switch. The problem is that obviously the AI is weaker than your native human playing. Like, I would ask, if I was playing Nebula, I'd want her to use her 6-star skill here, but she didn't. She used a different skill at the beginning. You know, and I would want my characters to prioritize using their AoE skills above other skills, but that's obviously not necessarily the case, because the AI is controlling them. And in general, it usually comes down to this, where you have 2 or 3 of the characters left ganking your one strongest character. So that's kind of what makes Rumble really difficult. You can't take advantage of any healing, and you have to rely on the AI to kind of help you out or get lucky with how they play. So for Rumble, it's a lot harder, and you usually need to bring one like guaranteed stunner into this game mode to have a chance to clear it. So maybe I'm going to clear this one with Songbird, and I'm going to control Songbird, and I'm going to abuse all of her stuns and binds, and then I'm just going to throw in 2 other like tanky blast characters to just distract the AI while I do my work with Songbird and kill everyone. That's what makes Rumble more difficult. If you go in with just one character, you're probably going to get slaughtered unless you use like Thanos, and then you're wasting Thanos because you need him later on. I haven't actually played boss mode or wave mode, but I have read about what they are, and you guys can look it up. Basically, wave mode will have 1 or 2 bosses, but in addition to those bosses, you will have lots of mobs that like spawn and keep spawning. So for example, there's a Loki stage, I believe at like 10 or 11, and Loki will summon the clones that will blast you, similar to his villain siege stage. It's also similar to Ultron's villain siege stage, where his mobs, his little robot fuckers, just keep coming in and trying to like fuck up your shit. So that one is also quite difficult because you need to queue in characters that not only have good single target DPS, but also characters who have AoEs to clear out all the trash mobs so you can target the right enemies. Quite difficult. Then we have boss mode. It's just a boss battle against one enemy, but the enemy usually has a very strong advantage. So they have like a huge heal, like Rocket Raccoon later on. Will be one of the bosses, and he will just do the 6-star and heal for like a lot. Or you'll have Iron Fist, and he has like a huge dodge rating. Or you'll have Hawkeye, and he'll deal a huge amount of bleed damage. So in those cases, you're gonna have to either bring one really strong character that you know can overcome the enemy's like trick or the enemy's talent in that Shadowland level, or you need to bring a team that can clear it. So for example, with the bleed and the Hawkeye, you're probably going to want to bring 3 characters no matter what, because you're going to need to switch to take the bleed off of characters who have gotten the debuff applied to them. For Iron Fists, you either need a dodge ignore leadership like Bullseye or Ronin, or a tier 2 character that has dodge ignore like Hyperion or something like that, or you're going to need dodge ignore on an obelisk. And so as you guys can see, it gets progressively harder and more difficult. Probably I would rank it like relay mode is relay mode is the easiest, then it's probably like wave or rumble, then rumble or wave, and then probably boss mode is the hardest. But there are much fewer boss modes than like relays and rumbles, so you won't see them as frequently. You guys can look up online all the different stages that you can expect, but of course there are, you know, relay modes for all 4 types: combat, blast, speed, universal. There are rumble modes for all 4, and then there are boss modes and wave modes with varying types and situations. In addition, there's also a mode where you have to fight either all villains or all heroes, and then the opposite faction, or I guess the opposite, what's it called? It's like true neutral, chaotic neutral. What's that shit called? I can't remember. Anyways, you'll have to fight either all heroes and you use super villains to get an advantage, or you'll fight all super villains and you'll use heroes to get an advantage in terms of typing and in terms of damage. From what I've read, and I haven't tried it myself because I'm not a masochist or a sadist or a masochist. From what I've read, the new Avengers hero rumble is like a fucking nightmare because Wiccan is just like the worst. But try it out for yourselves, get a feel for it, and hopefully you can overcome it, or you can give us some tips on how you did it. Now I want to talk a little bit more about what I meant before when I said that it makes characters relevant again. So a really big part of Shadowlands is crowd control and debuffs and buffs, particularly the first 2. So crowd control effects like freeze, stun, guard break, you know, fear, bind, snare, dispel, all of those work on all of the Shadowlands bosses. So for example, Venom, who is otherwise like a fucking useless character basically, he has no place in World Boss, he has no place in Alliance Battle. If you go and look at his skills, he has a skill here, I think it's Lethal Symbiosis, no, not Lethal Symbiosis, here we go, Deadly Maw, applied to enemy, fear 3 seconds. That's really useful. You can use that to stop the enemies from DPSing you, and you can kind of control them and have them do what you want to do. So if you line up Venom with other characters who have similar skills, you can kind of go around chaining these different crowd control skills and doing a lot of damage while protecting your characters from being hurt. So it's really important to know which characters have those types of effects and which skills those characters have those effects on. That's another thing that's really important. For example, Camilla Khan, one of her attacks, Shifting Punch, has a 3-second stun. That's super important because that stun is going to come in really handy when you're trying to chain your attacks. And because the enemies can not only be like stunned and crowd controlled, it's called CC. They can also be like, it's kind of like continuous crowd control. Basically, if you keep hitting the enemies, I can show you guys, I can try to show you guys what I mean. If you keep hitting the enemies and they don't really have a chance to like let up, or if you don't give them a chance, if you don't let up and you just keep hitting them, they will kind of turn it like into like kind of like a rag doll, and they'll just keep taking your hits over and over and over. And that's really, really important, especially for something like Relay, because my strategy for Relay so far has been to queue up with one main DPSer, and then queue up 1 or 2 extra characters who are like my my pushers. And what I basically mean is I want to push the enemies together into an area where, like, specifically a corner. So right now I worked Hawkeye into a corner. I kind of got fucked up because he's not here, but here we go. I'm gonna push them both into this corner, and if Captain America doesn't die, what I can basically do here is I can try to stun them. So as you guys can see, if my skill cooldown is fast enough, I can keep hitting them. And even though not all my skills have stuns, because they're getting hit, they're kind of like jerking their heads back. I don't know, I think they're like trying to dab or something. And so basically I can do this to continually chain attacks as long as I don't get interrupted, or as long as they don't have enough time to recover from it. So you can use that to your advantage, and you can kind of pin the enemies down, at least in Relay mode, and then you can do a lot more damage with a team that would otherwise get spanked because you had them in the corner and you were kind of using the game mechanics to your advantage. So for example, on the very first stage, I did a speed relay, and I cleared that stage with, it was probably overkill, but I used Hulk's leadership, and then I used Giant Man. Where's Giant Man? I used Giant Man, and I used Cho. So Cho was just there to give Hulk an extra bonus, and then Hulk was there for the leadership, and also Hulk and Cho have stuns on their skills, and then Giant Man was the main DPSer. So I used Hulk and Cho to kind of push Hawkeye, Ant-Man, Spider-Man, and Winter Soldier into the corner, and then as soon as they were ready and primed, I would switch to Giant Man and just unload my like all my DPS, my 3-star skill, or my 2-star skill, or my 3-star skill. I don't know, the fucking spinny one, the Dirt Devil one. I would unleash the spinny one, the stomping footfalls, and the new 6-star, you know, giant penile hammer. And then I would just rinse and repeat that strategy. And that strategy worked like super well for me. I actually cleared with MODOK as well, because as you know, MODOK with the uniform, with the Spider-Man uniform, he has web. I do not doubt for a second that all of the Spider characters are going to be super helpful in Shadowland, because the webbing is super useful. It's a great CC. It totally shuts down the enemy. And if you can chain that CC, you're just fucking gold. So Spider-Man with enough skill cooldown and the Civil War uniform can probably just like permanently web down blast characters in a relay battle, and he can probably single-handedly clear like a level 11 or level 13 or level 15 speed blast relay. So it's really, really important to look out for those characters, okay? I mean, basically every character in the game suddenly becomes viable. You know, even characters that don't even have those skills can still do what I mentioned that Captain America was doing, where they kind of like half stun the character and stun lock them by continuously attacking. You almost have to interrupt your skills in case one of your skills has like a break where the character jumps back or takes a pause, because you constantly need to be hitting the enemy. But like, I could have that same effect with She-Hulk, because so many of her skills are multi-hit and they hit fast and they hit hard, and I can just keep chaining her attacks to you know, suck those characters into the corner and keep them stuck there getting DPS'd. Same thing with someone like Gamora. She obviously has the bleed, but in addition, she has lots of fast attacks with short cooldown. So you can take advantage of that to pin those characters down and just, you know, DPS them to death. Obviously, stuff like Wiccan's Dispel is super useful. They will get dispelled. They will just start auto attacking you. So basically every character, because of the way that Shadowlands is built, every character is now viable. And so I encourage you not only to build teams that you think are going to clear in terms of how much damage they do, but also take a very good close look and take a long look and try to memorize the different skills your character has that apply some kind of CC effect, whether it's a freeze or a stun or a fear or a bind or a lock or a snare or something like that. There was an earlier combat level that I could have single-handedly cleared with Songbird just because I used her 1-star skill, then her 2-star skill, then her 1-star skill, then her 2-star skill. And I mixed in a couple of other attacks, but literally I was just doing that, and the enemies had absolutely nothing to say. They were fucking speechless, and it was awesome. So those are kind of my thoughts, guys, on Shadowland. Initially, take it slow. You have a lot of time. Don't use up all of your best characters at the beginning, although you might be tempted to, because you want to leave them for the end. And yeah, there will be people out there who have, like, 20 tier 2 characters and who are clearing Shadowlands all the way to stage 25. Pay them no mind, guys. Use your roster and try to maximize it as much as you can. Once you clear a stage with characters, you can't get them back. So another last tip that I have for you, for example, if I loaded this level up and I decided to go at it with Moon Knight, I'm sure that my Moon Knight's gonna like obliterate these 3 guys, and I'll be left just with Spider-Man, and my Moon Knight will be on full health. If you realize that, if you're almost about to clear a stage and you realize that it was quite easy, that your characters didn't take a lot of damage, that you didn't have multiple attempts to kind of perfect your strategy, your best bet is probably just to quit out. So what I mean is just press the settings button and hit retry. That way you won't lose those characters, and you can save them for a later Shadowland level, and then you can try to tweak your team to clear that level and save that stronger character for later. So if I was just like kicking these guys' asses, I was just like, running game, okay, you know what, I still have like 2 minutes left on the clock, I killed 3 of them, I only have Spider-Man left, this was way too easy, I'm just gonna hit retry, and I'm gonna save Moon Knight for a later stage. I did that on one of the other one of the other combat relays, where I was trying to get this team to work. I was trying to get MODOK leadership with Vision and Rocket Raccoon to work, and I almost got it to work a few times, but I must have tried about 10 or 15 times. It didn't work out for me, so I switched to a Star-Lord leadership. I maybe overkilled it a little bit, but I needed to clear that stage. And so it's those tiny tweaks of like, okay, I tried these 3 characters, they didn't quite work, but it was pretty close. I just need a small bump in DPS, or I need to add one more character who has CC, who has crowd control, and then I can just switch a little bit more between them. Of course, this strategy doesn't work for every game mode. It doesn't work obviously for Rumble and stuff like that, but especially for Relay, which you'll see a lot of at the beginning, it's really good to plan out your stages like that and plan out your attempts when you're attempting a new level, so that if you find that it's way too difficult, you need to make a big change to your team. But if you find it just a little bit easy, you should probably quit out and then try again with a less strong team to save those stronger characters for later. So I hope that this has been helpful, guys. I hope that you have I've imprinted on you some of my fervor and some of my excitement about Shadowland, because I think it's fucking awesome. Thank you, Netmarble. I'm so happy for this game mode. This is exactly what people have been calling for in Timeline, to make shitty characters relevant again, and they could not have done it in a more succinct, in a sexier way. This is the perfect game mode to make all of the neglected rejects of Future Fight fucking great again, okay? And not to mention, guys, Yellow Jacket and Giant Man have some baller-ass 6-star skills. Word up to that, all right? So, guys, I know you were waiting for this video, so let me know what your thoughts are on everything I said, and let me know how you're getting on in Shadowland. And, of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.